register, or any of the things associated with just going fishing with a complete stranger for all day. That's got to be somewhat intimidating. I get it. So tonight here within Straight Up Fishing app, what we're going to talk about is all those things. How do you get started? What do you need to bring? What can you expect if you're planning to go fish co-angler in some of these tournaments? That means from fishing co-angler in your club tournaments. That means fishing co-angler in BFLs or any tournament where you may need to fish with another boater. We're going to try to cover all of that. Today, I got one of my friends that I actually met through fishing co-angler is Carter Rajenko. We fished, was our first time was at St. Lawrence, wasn't it, Carter?
Yep.
Is it St. Lawrence River? Our first time fishing together was the St. Lawrence River. Probably one of at least one of my best days saltwater. One of my best smallmouth days. I want to say close to it at least. I don't know if it's number wise, but definitely probably up there weight wise. I think when we fished together. But we've just been kind of kept in touch ever since then, which will get to some of the stuff that I want to talk about concerning co-anglers. I feel like the co-angler is kind of getting pushed out of the sport, and that doesn't sit well with me. I don't like the fact that we are getting rid of that on all levels. We're not doing it on purpose, but at the same time, there's some measures and a lot of things that are happening that is ultimately going to lead to co-anglers not being a part of the sport of tournament fishing moving forward. And I think that's going to be a huge black eye for us. I think that could, I don't like that direction. I think we need to keep that in the sport, especially at the grassroots level. So if you've got questions about fishing co-angler, you want to know how you can get started, you want to know what you need to do, you want to know what you can expect, this is the place for it. Bring your questions to the chat. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, we do take questions from people inside of the app. So I'd love to have you join in. Usually we post a link in the comment section where you can join in. So Carter, I know we're gonna go like super simple. Let me get inside the app myself. Super simple. I know there's so many things with fishing co-angler that are fishing in general, since we've been around fishing so long, that we take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to start like super, super basic, almost to the point where this is gonna. I might insult your intelligence here a little bit with some of the questions I have about it. You're gonna say, Brian, you know how to do that, but I'm literally thinking about the person that has never fished a tournament before in their life, and they want this year. They say 2025. Gosh dang it, I'm fishing a tournament. I'm getting it. I'm doing this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember your first one that you fished as a co-angler?
I do. So when I turned 16, that was like what was on my mind because that's like the minimum age to go and fish
Right.
uh
It's a good part to
co-angler
start.
tournaments. And I didn't have any divisions like super close to the house for BFLs, which is like probably the most affordable way to fish as a co-angler is the MLF BFLs.
I would
And
say so too.
yeah, but I fished up in La Crosse, and that was about 4 hours away. And I think for the first year, I kind of just I struggled actually. I mean, I would bring a lot of stuff on the boat. I didn't really like I didn't I would go through like I remember I would go through like 20 to 30 different baits in a day because I always thought it was like the bait is like what the deal is, like you got to have like this, you know what I'm saying?
There's something you got. It's
I was
something you
just
gotta
over
have.
I was just overthinking it because of how excited I was to like be fishing like an adult tournament and
That's
uh,
valid though.
I still made it to regionals, but it was just like I would have like one or two fish every tournament. And then the next year I got into the Toyota series and then the year after that I think is when me and you fished together and I think I that's when I won the boat at the Potomac.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a
So tell me this about your first one though. Do you remember the process? Like, think about some of the people watching literally have never fished a tournament before.
yeah.
How do you sign up for a tournament? Where do you even start if you
Um
were wanting to fish co-angler? You mentioned
so
the BFLs. Is there something else that you fished besides BFLs before then as a
Like
co?
I'm sure like a lot like my area had a club that I fished one co-angler tournament at, but I think BFLs are your best option. Uh, you can sign up at Major League Fishing. You just like call them or sign up online and pay the entry fee, and then basically you just show up the night before, you have your tackle ready, and they text you like you're basically getting paired with a random person, which can have cons to it.
Right.
Especially the BFL level, like it's a lot of weekend anglers and like it's really like well with any co-angler tournament really, it's like kind of a crapshoot on whether you're gonna be around fish or not.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing you can't control is where you're gonna be at on the lake. That's usually 99% of the time the boater is making those decisions. So yeah, you get paired with a boater the night before. You call him on the phone is what I usually did. Ask him like where he wants to meet at the boat ramp and stuff. I remember uh, I was 16 and I wasn't like super good at backing in trailers. And every time they would be like, "Can you back a trailer?" And be like, "Yeah," even though I had done it like
Yeah, you'd be like,
25
I don't know about this, Bubba.
times. And so that's how I learned to back a trailer.
Yeah.
But
That's the highest pressure situation possible
it
in the
is, it
dark
is.
with somebody's 70, 80s, $200 million bass boat. Oh, yeah, let me just back this down in the dark real quick with 40 other boats around me.
Yep, yeah.
High pressure.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I learned to do that. And then you bring, your rods and your tackle. I don't know if it's like a requirement, but I think in the rules it says you can only bring or it's recommended you bring below 7 rods. I like sometimes I would bring like 4 rods or 3 rods. It's not like the biggest thing is it's not about how much stuff you bring because you only have 8 to 10 hours to go fish. Like you're not going to be able to efficiently fish and use 20 different baits. Like I would usually have 4 or 5 things rigged up, and that would be like all I threw, you know,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
whole day. So it's
The,
just keeping it simple.
the funny thing about that you mentioned is that that stands for fishing in general. That's
Hmm.
not even a co-angler thing. That's not even co-angler game. I can tell you any tournament I've ever had where I've had more than 3 to 5 rods on the deck is probably this is usually that's one of them 1-0s. That's a 1-0 tournament.
Yeah.
110, 127, 109. Anytime you see me,
Yep.
I got more than 5 max. I really like to stay around 2 or 3. If you
Hmm.
ever see me show up and I got like 2 or 3, get ready, buddy. You about to see something. I ain't telling you I'm about to win, but I am telling you somebody gonna get their heads beat in if you see me with 2 or 3 rods on the deck.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a big part of fishing in general. Here's the thing, like you mentioned, sometimes when we talk about registering for tournaments, I know I feel almost like I'm being a prick when I answer that question. People ask that all the time. How do I register for tournaments? How do I get started?
Yeah.
It's so easy that it almost sounds like you're being smart at it. The best thing you can do if you want to fish tournaments is go to majorleaguefishing.com. You're going to go to the Phoenix Bass Fishing League. You want to click down and find a division, find lakes close to where you live. I would say for BFL level tournaments, you want to fish something within 2 to 3 hours of where you live. Now, obviously, if you live on the West Coast or the Midwest, it might get a little spicy. You might have to look for another route outside of BFLs because we're mostly from, I would say, is it maybe Missouri, Kansas, east, somewhere in the middle of the country, east. I don't think there's zero trails out west. Find a division close to you. You call it. Listen, I've been calling the same number for 23 years. 1-270-252-1000. And Wendy or Carol will pick up the phone and you tell them your name, they'll sign you up for a membership and take your credit card right on the phone to whatever division, whatever tournament you want to register in. It's literally that simple. You want to register, you want to get started in tournaments, you just call somebody. Secondly, if you maybe you don't want to fish BFLs first, because that is BFLs. Honestly, from a local level perspective, is about as high as it gets before you start getting into regional events. Maybe you should fish a club. Uh, Google. the one of the closest or biggest lakes near you. Google bass clubs near lake, whatever your home lake is. Bass clubs near Lake Pinawasaki. Bass clubs near the Willacoochee River. Look for that, and you'll find the club. You probably be an email. I'm not sure how they're doing it now. Probably email. You might be able to send them a message over Facebook or something like that. Send them a message and say, I don't have a boat. I want to fish as a co-angler. How do I get started? And they'll direct you which way to go. The fishing community is pretty embracive to new members until you start winning. And then they want to push you out. But as long as you're catching no fish, the fishing community loves you. Like, donate to us. As long as you don't win, you'll be fine. And most likely when you first start, you probably won't win that much. But most people take you in pretty easily. You can just call, send a message, email, and get started. There's nothing you need other than your fishing license or membership. Some of the clubs will have dues, and like Major League Fishing, you'll pay a membership, and you can literally just show up to the tournament and be able to fish. The barrier to entry is very easy in bass fishing. So I know there's a lot of other intimidating things. That's what we're going to get into next. Carter was already kind of starting to allude to it. Carter, you already kind of hit on it a little bit. I'm gonna keep my eye on this chat too. You guys throw your questions in the chat if you're thinking about it. If you're on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, just make sure we do take questions from the app. I can't see your questions on the other platforms. We can't see it in the community section or in the chat or the live. Let's do. There's so many directions we could go with this. Let's talk about gear. That is the thing that people salivate over the most. I show up to the ramp. You already kind of alluded to, you don't want to bring too much stuff, but let's go a little deeper into why we don't want to bring stuff. Tell me a little bit about your process when you're picking out your tackle for a tournament.
Well, the biggest thing with co-angler, besides keeping it simple, is like finesse fishing, and that's basically what I did for the 4 years that I fished as a co-angler. Like a wacky rig, a Nico rig,
Write this down, guys,
a
because
shaky
y'all
head.
will be posting in the community section. He's telling you, he's giving you juiced right now. Juice.
Drop shot. I mean, I came from like I didn't obviously I'm fishing as a co-angler because I don't have a boat. So I'm sure a lot of you guys pond fish, or fish in rivers, and basically I just took the pond fishing, what I used there, and brought it to the boat. It's simple stuff. It's the Senko, a Texas rig. The 5-inch Senko was like the main thing. Like I'd have like
Right.
5 packs at least every tournament. Like
You rig
basically,
him so many ways, right?
yeah, unless you're going to a smallmouth fishery, that's
5-inch Cinco.
the 5-inch Senko is go-to, you know.
Yeah, it's tough to
Um,
beat him.
yeah, there's so
So
many.
So pond fishing gear, which you're 100% right on there. Just about everything that you use, smaller usually is better. Did you have a ratio on spinning to bait casters? Like how many spinning reels versus bait casters do you recommend if you're fishing co-angler or somebody?
I would say if I'm bringing 5 rods, at least 2 to 3 of them are going to be spinning rods.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I always did too.
there's sometimes I didn't even bring a bait caster,
Yeah.
especially like if you got like I fished a co-angler tournament on St. Clair, or like any like smallmouth or spotted bass too. Um, that could be definitely more spinning rod
Any
than
bass that exists nowadays.
yeah, right. Every on jig head minnow now. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's pretty simple. And then as far as like my storage, that was pretty important too, is like being organized because you'll have boaters that'll give you like the back compartment of their boat to store your stuff in, which it might seem like a big area, but it's really not. Like if you're bringing food, water, or like extra clothes if it's cold out, that's another thing too. Like you got to make sure you're prepared for the day. Like if there's going to be rain, if it's cold out, because that's the worst is being
Oh,
unprepared with clothes. If you have a boat, it's easy. You can just keep extra stuff in a big
yeah.
compartment. But like as a co-angler, I'm like always trying to not. bring too many clothes where I'm don't have enough room.
Yeah,
Um,
you're so exposed to the elements as a co-angler. Most of us have single console boats, so all the rain, all the wind, all the spray from the boat is you're getting it
yeah.
full on. Yeah,
Yep.
it's you get all the elements. So if I was fishing co-angler now, I would over prepare clothing wise, especially in wintertime tournaments.
Yeah. For
And I'd rather be over prepared there than in any other area.
hmm
Forget them rods. Forget
hmm
forget all them different
Yep.
colors of worms you got and 18
Yep.
different Fritz size fives you got. No. Make sure you got, like he said, an extra set of clothes, extra set of gloves, maybe extra set of socks, maybe even extra set of shoes in some situations, just depending on how it goes.
Yeah.
Um, you have any horror stories with weather when it comes to
Uh, well, now that I'm thinking about like bringing extra clothes, I remember St. Lawrence. It was like 2 or 3 years ago. I was fishing out of the back. Well, yeah, I was fishing as a co-angler, and it was in the tournament. The guy in my boater hooked up on a smallmouth. I set my rod down and we're drifting in the current, on the St. Lawrence, and I'm up there with the net, and I turn around and my rod's like 3 feet in
oh
the
yeah.
water. So
Oh,
I think I have it on one of my YouTube videos, but I dove
no
it
way.
after the rod. It was like 50 degrees, raining, cold, and I got it. But the rest of the day I was like
Wet. Yeah.
soaked. But I had almost
Yeah.
20 pounds. So it
Yeah. How
was,
many? 20?
I had like 19.8 or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But it was, if the fishing was bad on top of that, it would
Ooh.
have completely sucked.
Yeah. St. Lawrence is like 65 in July up
Yeah.
there. It's
Yeah.
cold. Let's talk about this, Carter. What about when you're fishing these tournaments? How do you go as a co-angler? How do you go about researching the lake in a tournament?
So when I started out, I would do a lot of research on like Google Maps, looking at, especially on like like a river system, or like you kind of have to figure out what the patterns are like on each body of water. Like trying to think like lacrosse, where I started out fishing as a co-angler. You can figure out like researching online. Like a lot of people catch them there on frogs, on chatterbaits, just like power fishing, shallow stuff. So when I'm going up to lacrosse, I know like that's kind of what I need to pack for. But if I'm going to, um, I think like Champlain, it's a lot of like deep water, smallmouth fishing. You can catch largemouth too, but it just kind of knowing what to bring as far as tackle. Because I'll bring like if I'm going to even a BFL, uh, or if you're traveling a decent ways away and you're like getting a hotel and stuff, like I'll bring a lot of extra tackle. But when I get on the boat, sometimes I would bring like one box and like a plastic bag of baits.
Right.
So you just kind of got to talk to your boater and figure out what you guys are doing. But as far as research, I didn't really feel like it had that much of an impact because I would throw the same stuff like everywhere I went, basically.
Right. Yeah. I tell people, I'm so glad you said that. I tell people that all the time. It was actually a question that this is what got me thinking about this. Is one of the subs asked about co-angler and fishing co-angler, and they how do you research? Because one of the things we did earlier this fall was breaking down new lakes, and they were
Mhm.
asking if the same information is relevant for fishing co-angler. And for the most part, it is. But I told him, like, why even tie up a whole bunch of stuff before you got in the boat? You don't know where you're
Yeah.
going. You don't know where you're fishing. I just kind of told him, like, don't stress it too much. You have no control. That is nothing that you can control. The only thing you can control is, number one, making sure you're comfortable. Number two, making sure you at least have some baits that you have confidence in more
Yeah.
than anything. And then, just your mindset that you have when you're out there, because it is somewhat challenging fishing co-angler. You're not going to always have the angles that you want. You're always going to have the cast that you want.
hmm
Um, and sometimes the boaters are a little bit cranky,
Yeah.
Trying to think of a way to say that without swearing.
Yeah.
But sometimes,
Yeah.
hey, sometimes old good buddy out the front is like, man, I'd love to take this rod and stick it up your goddamn. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it's just like that. I'm a boater, and I'm telling you that because I know I get cranky sometimes, especially if
Hmm.
things aren't going, the way that I want them to go. So, it's a challenge. I would prepare myself in those areas more so than worrying about, some hump or some area of the lake to fish.
Yeah.
That's not your job as a co-angler.
Yeah.
It's just which is a good. I was about to go somewhere else. That's actually a good topic to stick a pin in. Is what should somebody expect? I hate to say role, but what would you expect to have to do um, in the boat of another person? You have some rules you follow by. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I fished a lot of people. I mean, I did. It wasn't haphazardly that I stayed in contact with you since then. Because some people, by the end of the day, I'm ready to get them out, to get the heck out of my boat. Gosh dang it! Like,
Yeah.
get it out of here, man. Get away from me. Don't come back. Get
Yeah.
out of here and don't come back.
Yep.
But what can people expect on that side? I mean, let's just be honest. That's weird fishing. You're in a small space with somebody you probably never met before for about 8 to 10 hours.
Hmm.
What can they expect fishing co-angler?
Um, what can they expect? Well, I've had a lot of, I mean, you said it, that you can have super nice dudes and then you have some dudes that are not the greatest, but that's totally out of,
We're both skirting around it. We're
yeah.
both talking, yeah.
But that part is not in your control. So I say for you to have the best experience, you need to show up, don't bring a ton of stuff because that's the first thing that will have a little bit of might cause you to have a little bit of friction with your boater is if you're bringing a huge bag of tackle. They really like it when you don't have the bottom of the boat crowded with stuff.
Yeah.
And then uh I don't know, just be respectful, like pick up your trash, don't be eating food and leaving crumbs in their boat. Don't
It's-
uh at the BFL level it's more chill. But like Toyota's, well, it happens at BFLs too, but guys like to take the tournament super serious. So
yeah,
if
you got
it's,
a lot invested in it.
yeah, I mean it's a lot of money to travel, and regardless of what trail you're on, you got to travel, you got to have a boat and a truck. So the boaters are trying to take it serious, and if you're back there like talking their ear off all day, uh,
Oh,
yeah. I mean,
that's tough.
I've had it the other way
Oh
around,
yeah.
where the boater talks my ear off, and I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
fish right
Just put us on some fish. Yeah. I can definitely say, I can confirm that I can tell you from my perspective from being a boater. Um, it doesn't matter. One thing like we talked about in the beginning, if you can't back a trailer, just be upfront with the guy.
Yeah.
Just say, hey, look, I can't back a trailer and I don't want to drive your boat. I'll be more than glad to hold it right here on the dock, but I don't want to be responsible for any of your equipment. I think any boater that can't respect that, he's a turd head.
Yeah.
I could totally respect that. If you just told me up front, hey, I really don't want to. I just don't want to mess up your truck. I just don't want to do your boat. It's okay. Now we can always figure out a way to get that boat in the water and get that truck parked. So I would definitely tell you to guard against that. If you're not confident back in the trailer, if you're not confident driving the boat, just tell the guy up front, I'll hold it for you. I'm not dealing with it. It's not your job. It's nice if you can, but it is not your job to back anybody's boat in the water. It's not your job to park anybody's truck. Okay. Some guys will try to push those boundaries, but it's okay just to deny that. It's not your job. From a boater perspective as well, I will say something that probably that can get under my skin a little bit is keep in mind I don't know everything. I have an idea by the time I practice. So asking too many questions will aggravate the living piss out of me. Just I don't know. All I know is where we're gonna start, and I'll have to let the day unfold. I'll tell you what I'm fishing with, but when you start asking too many questions about how the day is going to unfold, you may aggravate your boater. The best, you don't have a lot to worry about. All you gotta do is follow that boater, and that's gonna happen by default because you're in the boat with him all day. So just where you're gonna be, try to be there on time. Try to meet him somewhere where you're easy to find, and you should have a good day. But asking a lot of questions can be throw off. Like where in the lake we're going to? What do I need to be throwing? How many things? What are you fishing? Your boater's not going to want give you a lot of information about how practice went and how he's catching them because he's probably worried that you're staying with another boater and you're going to relay that information to him. So he's probably going to be a little bit tight-lipped. That's normal. Just live with it. As far as when you get in the boat, like Carter said, it is very aggravating when you have a lot of things with you. Like that space in the bottom of the boat, it makes it hard to get out from the console to the deck and back down. When you're catching fish, that's where the net usually lays. So if you got a bunch of junk, it just makes the day aggravating. So try to keep your stuff fairly clean. Sorry, my light just went out. It actually looks better, doesn't it? But yeah, try to keep your area clean. Keep your stuff picked up. Keep your stuff out of the net, please. Keep your stuff out of your net, your tackle box, your Gatorade bottles, your cooler, your life jacket, all that stuff. Keep it out. Keep it out of there. Um. Oh, we got to talk about this. This is the one that really ticks me off. Is mud. Your feet. You got to be conscious of of your feet where you've been walking. I know a lot of times you're walking around in the dirt and the mud. You're at the lake. It's a muddy place. But carpet in a bass boat is really aggravating to have to clean up after your co-angler, whether it be like what Carter just mentioned, everything he just said. Your food, your wrappers, your drink bottles, the mud, sand on your feet. Sometimes it's going to be unavoidable, but do everything in your power to not drag mud in the boat if you can. It's just that really can put a damper on the day. Um, I'm sure we'll go a lot deeper into that. Let's do this, and then Mike, are we getting any questions? I'm trying to keep up, but it's like my brain. It's like I look at the questions on here, and my brain won't process them. Like I see it, but my brain just reads it, and it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah, there
It
there've been
doesn't
a
process
there've
it.
been a few, and I don't think you've hit on the live well situation and how that
Yeah,
works.
I did write that down. I did write the live well situation down. Um,
I
let's go
think
ahead and hit that.
Okay.
We're doing good.
Um,
So that's a perfect example. I know that may seem like, what do you mean? I even do that because a lot of times my co-anglers ask me like, what side do I put my fish in? Bruh. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? But then I forget, like, people don't know. They really don't know. They've never been in this situation. So you want to walk us through that? Let's what where you got your fish on. You bring them in the boat. What happens next?
So, the first thing is I always have cold tags with me. It's if you're fishing MLF, it is in the rules that you need to have your fish on a cold tag. Um,
Explain to them what
but
a call tag is,
so a
Carter.
cold tags basically you can only use non-puncturing cold tags now, but it just clips on the lip. I'm trying to see. No, I don't. They're in my boat, but it clips onto the lip of the fish, and it'll have like a number and a color usually, and it'll kind of mark your fish. And especially when you have double live wells and you're with a co-angler and a boater, like it's very rare, but sometimes the fish can jump into another live well, or if you guys catch a fish at the same time, like yeah, it's just good to have cold tags on them so you can identify that it's yours, and then if you catch a limit of 5 fish, and then you catch a bigger one, you can cull out the fish, and the cold tags really help. Like you can pick them up and put them on cold beams and be able to cull out your fish easier. But yeah, always bring cold tags. Some people will bring a scale and like weigh everything. I don't really see a point in that, but
Hey,
yeah.
we have to do that now. We have to weigh every fish
Oh,
now.
really?
Yeah, well, in the tackle warehouse. I don't know about Toyota Series. I'm pretty sure not, but yeah, we got to weigh every single fish
Huh.
before we put it in the live well now
Wow,
on the bubble scale.
interesting.
Yeah, that's one way of saying it. um,
Yeah,
so also, it's very important to notice um, your side of the live well. There's a divider in every boat's live well, a left side and a right side.
hmm
As a co-angler, your fish goes in the passenger side live well. The passenger side, the side of the boat that you sat on, opposite of the steering wheel, is where you put your fish at in the boat. Which, you know, valid question. Very, very valid question.
Uh, Another important thing, because I've had this happen to me before, always like check, like if you guys are switching to go to another spot, always check on your fish because so a lot of boats are different, but like they'll either have a divider where it's like one pump system or they'll have two separate live well systems. So I've had boaters before where they like it's a very rare situation, but the boater's passenger side live well didn't work. He forgot about it, didn't tell me, and I had like a good bag. This was my first towing tournament I ever fished. Actually, I had a good bag, and all of them died because he wasn't running the recirc pump. So just just be like even if you don't know how to run a live well, which I didn't at the time, just check on your fish and yeah, sometimes I'll even bring G juice, which is like a it's like a uh kind of you dump it in the live well, it helps relieve stress on the fish and it helps keep them, alive. Um but yeah.
Yeah, that's a good subject. I never even thought about asking about that. He was talking about G juice. That's a live well additive that you can put in your live wells to help keep your fish alive.
Mhm.
One thing I will say about that, Carter, that does get. I would definitely ask for permission from your boater because in most, at least every boat I've had, there's just a divider in one big live well. So when you dump stuff in your live well, you putting them on my fish
Yeah.
too. I'm like, I want to know what you putting on there.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
yeah, if you do decide to put an additive in there, I would say probably definitely ask for permission. Your boater should. I'm not saying I shouldn't say should because a lot of times I don't have it because I use it all. But live well additives, it's probably a good idea to bring you some with you because I think a few boat manufacturers do have a dedicated separate live well, like it's two
Mhm.
bathtubs
Mhm.
in the boat. So in that event, I would say go for it. Put whatever, bring your own. I put whatever you want to in it.
Mhm.
Um, you know what I want to? I do want to hit this. I think this would be. Let's see. I see the chat lighting up about. Is it the chat not working? I think Barty says it's not working on the computer.
Yeah, your
Yeah, I'm
camera's
working on talking to
Yeah,
the support folks to see about getting it
yeah.
working. Is your
Okay,
camera
so
on?
mine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm not seeing you.
yeah,
Maybe.
that's it.
I see me. I see me in the. I see me, but huh. Let's see. Is that what about now? Huh. Yeah, let me hold on. Let me go. Yeah, it's on. Me, everything's lit up. Yeah, I see it's going now on the side. Wonder what happened. Let me do this here. Cam link.
Can't learn about fishing if we can't see your pretty face.
I know, right? Wonder what's
There
wrong.
we go.
Huh. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I just did the link thing again, or just hit the thing on the whatever. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about. I want to talk about places that people could possibly potentially fish. It's quite a few. I would say most of the crowd in the app is probably older, and they may want a destination co-angler trip. So I'd love to hear what your dream co-angler like somewhere you'd want to take a trip to as a co-angler to fish. It would be like phenomenal fishing, just a good area. Because there's some lakes it's like no, I would never fish co-angler there, and then
Yeah.
there's others I'm like, oh yeah, sign me up for that. Like I would even sign up for it now on certain lakes.
I would say definitely forward-facing sonar, not to bring that up, but it has changed like how
Yeah,
I would
bring it
answer
up.
that question. I would say anything in the Northeast, like St. Lawrence, Champlain, even with like live scope and everything, you can catch so many fish. Like no
Yeah,
matter where you go, like it's just it's just crazy up there. Um, and then like a lot of the, but like that's also hard to answer because it depends on time of year too. Like if
yeah,
you go to let's say like Chickamauga or Gunnersville, those are really popular lakes. If you go there as a co-angler, it can be really good. It just depends on when you go. Like Chickamauga, I
yeah.
remember I went there right around the spawn and we were fishing shallow and catching 50 fish a day, uh like fishing shallow. But if you go there in the middle of winter or like summer, it might not be as good of an experience for you as a co-angler because they're going to be offshore, either live scoping or fishing ledges, which is a little bit harder to do as a
Yeah.
co-angler. So I would just say, I mean, anywhere can be good. You just got to time it right.
Yeah. It's sort of this weird paradox where I feel like, see if I can get my light to come back on. Still not, yeah. I feel like it's this weird paradox where it's good, like a lot of lakes are good during the spring, but the spring could also screw you as a co-angler because what if you're sight fishing? What if the boat is sight
Yeah,
fishing? What if it's like these one cast areas that a lot of times that that
yeah,
they are during the spring. So it's this weird deal. Like you mentioned, Chickamauga. You hear all these great places: Chickamauga, Gunnersville. Um, Chickamauga is one I think of like pretty. I feel like it's pretty obvious. It's a really good lake. I was just looking at a BFL result before we got on the live tonight, and the dude,
hmm
32 pounds.
hmm
And but I bet it's not that good a place to fish co-angler right
Oh,
now.
I'm sure that tournament, all the guys were in ditches scoping, and
Yeah, yeah,
there's a couple guys fishing shallow. But like I remember the last year I fished as a co-angler, which was 2021, I think,
yeah,
where the championship was on Table Rock. There was like a very like there's like a separation almost. It's like there's guys that are like forward facing sonar all day, which I think
Mhm.
we should talk about, like what to
We
do
do. Yeah, we
if
should.
get stuck in a situation like that, because those are some of the most brutal days when guys like at Table Rock, that was a championship that I fished. The guys were in 100 feet of water fishing
Really.
for suspended fish, but you can still catch fish as a co-angler. Uh,
Let's go in there. How do you catch fish? Your boater's using forward facing sonar. You're going through that. What the heck am I going to do if I'm in 100 foot of water and my boater's using forward facing? What was your strategy?
okay, so the biggest thing is like just having a bait in the water. Like a lot of guys will see their boater scoping and they realize they're on 100 feet and they're just like, I give up. And they you'll see it all the time. Co-anglers just sitting down taking a nap, like I'm done. But
Mm-hmm.
uh I mean, that's not really the right attitude. So the attitude is a big thing. But as far as like baits and techniques when you're out deep, fishing for, you kind of got to figure out where in the water column are the fish. Uh,
Right.
if you're out in a ditch, if the guy's out live scoping, the fish are most likely going to be suspended. So throwing like a swim bait, Alabama rig, a jerk bait, those are all really good baits that you don't need to, like, forward facing sonar makes it more effective. Um, but you can still catch fish like without it.
Right.
Just fan casting. Like I remember on Rayburn, I was catching fish right next to the guy that was scoping, just throwing a Kitech, and just like
Yeah.
reeling it and just counting it down and just keep a bait in the water. But like if you're fishing like a ledge or something deep, like a point, just dragging something, like the fish are on the bottom, so just drag like a Carolina rig or something. Just keep it simple.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Number one, the part about the mindset is definitely something that people need to hear. And then secondly, dude, like the normal stuff. I know it's intimidating when somebody's using forward facing. It's intimidating for me, even as a boater. So I can imagine what it's like as a co-angler. But the fish they still will bite all of the normal stuff that they've always bitten.
Mhm.
The Carolina rigs, your jigs, your shaky heads, something dropping, hitting the bottom. There's only three things you got in this whole game. You got stuff that stays on the top, you got stuff that stays in the middle, and you got stuff on the bottom.
Mhm.
All that stuff, it still applies, especially as a co-angler. A lot of our tournaments are 3 fish limits, I want to say now. So
Yeah, I think so.
3 fish limits. Yeah, like you think if you really keep your bait wet all day, especially nowadays because of forward facing sonar, if you mess around and catch you one, just figure out how to get one in the boat.
Yeah.
And then you get another one somewhere out through the day. Well, heck, you
Yeah.
only need one more by the time the day's over with.
Yep.
And I guarantee if you come in with a 3 fish limit nowadays in these tournaments, you are probably going to be setting pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
you saw those Pickwick
Yeah.
results.
Especially if it's a multiple day tournament, like there's no reason to not be casting and trying to get at least like 1 or 2 fish. And then like another thing that'll happen is your boater never really tells you most of the time what you're doing for the whole day. So like you could be out deep and think your whole day's over, but then he decides to switch it up and go shallow. But like there's been times where I'm out deep with my boater fishing deep. I catch 1 fish or 2 fish, and then he moves up shallow, and that's when I have like time to like capitalize. I'm around stuff that I can cast at, and I know what I'm fishing. And those 1 or 2 fish that I caught there out deep, like added to the bag and really helped out. So like
Yeah.
you just gotta keep fishing.
That mindset's huge right there. That's what keeps you fishing. Hey, this is a good question. I just caught. I know guys asked a few more, but this is a good one. I just caught out the side of my eye. Tim Pfeiffer's asking, "What's your experience with boaters keeping the console graphs on for you to see while fishing in the back?" I think
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Hey Carter, I'm gonna go get my other light. You can keep talking.
Okay.
People are hearing you. You just because you don't see me, people are hearing you. I promise you.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
Talk about the graph deal because
Yeah.
I never even think about it actually.
Oh, really? Okay. So that's a pretty big thing, especially when you're fishing out deep. I never mess with the graphs. Like I don't change any settings, but whatever they leave on, they leave on. Sometimes you'll get 2D, sometimes you'll get mapping, sometimes you'll get nothing, and they'll shut the graphs off either to like save batteries or because they don't want you to see their spots. But if you can get mapping uh on the console graph and look at that, any information on there is valuable. Like if I'm live, sometimes I've been like stuck out in the middle of a ditch, but I can look at the map and see, maybe there's a point out over here to the right that I can cast at. Um, and then I remember like a lot of times they'll have the 2D or the side scan running. If you have side scan, that's really good too. You can watch for like stumps or brush piles on the side of the boat and like cast it, stuff that you see. If you have 2D, especially on smallmouth lakes, I've had this happen a lot. Like watch your 2D because you'll see fish under the boat. And I know a lot of people say like, oh, fish are shy of the boat. They won't eat when it's under the boat. But there's been a lot of times where I've dropped. I remember Champlain, this guy was fishing this rock pile. He was casting at it from like 100 feet with live scope. He couldn't get him to bite. We went straight over it with the trolling motor. I dropped straight down and I caught like a 5-pound smallmouth right under the boat because I saw it on 2D. I watched my bait go down and he ate it. So always pay attention and like always pay attention to your graphs if you have them on. And then a little sneaky thing is a lot of times when the boaters were live scoping, I would like depending on how they have it mounted on the front of their boat, you can watch their live scope, and a lot of times they'll be casting at fish, and then the boat will go over the fish, and you can drop on them.
Yeah, sneaky. Yeah, you can pay attention to that for sure. I know exactly what you're talking about. He's kind of let himself float into the fish, and now it's directly under the boat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tim is fishing. I'm sure Tim. I've taken quite a few people fishing with me in the app now. Tim Dawson's fished with me, Chris and Destiny, Jaden. They've all fished with me. We've been using live scope to fish vertically under the boat, just like what we used to use 2D back in the day for smallies and stuff. So yeah, all that stuff it applies just about everywhere nowadays. Like it's just this weird era where we're just into fishing nothing now. Like fishing nothing is a whole thing now.
Yeah.
So did we get? Let's see. Do we see any? Do you? 2D. Let me see if there's any other questions around the graphs. Most people will leave those graphs on. For the most part. So yeah, definitely pay attention. It tells you your depth, kind of lets you know where you are too. If you study the lake, sometimes you can get a good indication of what you might be, what might be coming up. If you know what area of the lake in, let's just say if the area, the southern end of a lake has grass in it. Well, if you see your boater headed down to the south end, all right, today I'm probably going to need to have my trap. I'm going to need to have my chatterbait. You'll be ready, preparing yourself mentally for what you're about to get into if you've done a little bit of homework just by knowing where to go. So Chandler Timothy, he says, what's the deal with not sharing spots if you're on the boat? Would it be bad, co-angler etiquette, to run Navionics app on your phone and mark where you fish?
Oh, I definitely not do that. That's a kind of funny that he asked that.
Yeah.
That's well, it's against the rules in MLF. I don't know about
it is, isn't it? Yeah.
I remember my buddy was fishing as a co-angler and he was with the Hammer of the Mississippi River, Mike Brigham. I don't know if you know him, but he wins a ton of stuff up there. And I remember I don't know if I probably shouldn't have name dropped, but
they don't know. They don't know. It's okay.
He was like he turned to my buddy because he checked his phone at like noon and he was like, "Are you saving my spot?" And my buddy was like, "No," and he's like, "Oh, good, because I would have thrown your phone in the river if you did."
Whoa,
yeah, he's pretty intense guy.
Yeah, some lakes, I guess it is like that. I will say this, for the most part, I don't really worry about it because it seems like I'll catch fish in an area and then I never catch them there again in the rest of my life.
Yeah,
I mean that's like this is a fact. So just use it for example again. Like Tim, I fished with Tim. I fished with 3 or 4 other people just since November last year. All them spots are dried up now. When I took Jaden, one of the younger guys in the app, I took him. We had about a 2.5 hour stretch where we caught him every single drop until dark. I have not caught a bass off of that ditch since then. It was like one of those magical things, but I do get it in certain places. Potomac is one of them. I don't like people marking spots on the Potomac or rivers in particular, because typically in rivers, fish get where they get and they always go where they go. On the St. Lawrence, if you find a rock on the St. Lawrence, there will probably be a fish on that rock for the rest of your life. Like that rock don't move. So it's it's probably I would say, Chandler, to answer your question more precisely, you probably don't want to be, first of all, you don't want to go into this looking for spots to begin with. You don't want to start fishing co-angler to get spots. Yeah. First of all, it's a great learning experience in the event and in the perspective of I'm going to learn how this guy is constructing his day of tournament fishing. I'm going to learn how he's fishing the boat. For me, it was when I first started fishing, it was like, well, how far is he keeping his boat from the bank? Like, how is he running the trolling motor? Just picking up on those few things. But as far as, you wouldn't want to go into this looking to find 3 good places you could fish on Lake Greenwood or on Gunnersville or whatever. Yeah. That's probably a bad mindset to have, but you will pick up on a lot of what they call in basketball, the intangibles. You'll pick up on a lot of soft skills by fishing co-angler that you might not experience otherwise. Yeah. So yeah, definitely don't do that. I would say that would definitely probably be crossing the line on etiquette there.
But with spots though, you can learn how fish set up on certain things, you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying.
Like it's not like marking the spot is not even really that helpful. It's more about learning like how fish are setting up, how the boater's positioning himself. And then you can also learn like what not to do, you know, if your boater doesn't catch anything that you know, like
Yes. Oh, let's stick a peg in that right there. So what you just said is like there is a positive spin on every situation that you will have out there on that lake.
yeah.
And like he said, you might fish with somebody and you don't catch jack diddly squat. Number
Mhm.
one, I want you to watch how easy it is for you to what do they call it? The couch quarterback, the guy you like, oh, I would have yada 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 yada. It's going to
Yeah.
be very easy for you to do that, which can work to your advantage as a co-angler because you can see clearly setting from the back. When you're on the trolling motor, you can't everything's coming at you 100 miles an hour. Sometimes you can't see clearly.
Mhm.
But that can work to your advantage, even if it's a bad day. You go to an area of the lake, the guy's trying a technique, he's trying to color a bait, it's just not working. Well, heck, now you know when you get your boat not to go do that. Don't go up Willacoochee Creek and go throw a crankbait all day. You need to put that down, good buddy. When you
Yeah.
see all the top 10 was on the main lake dragging a drop shot on main lake reefs or something. Now you know that. So I remember when the few tournaments that I fished co-angler, that's exactly what I wanted to know. Is like, I never had any really good draws from what I remember fishing co-angler, but still I got a lot of valuable information because my lights keep going out every time I hook one up. But but yeah, you get information in all different types of ways, and it's up to you to open your eyes to the ways that you can get valuable information. And it's not always fish catches. The valuable information that you will get from fishing co-angler will not always be a 20-pound bag. It will not always be a top 5 finish. It will not always be the best day of fishing in your entire life. Not every single time, hopefully sometimes, but a lot of times it will be what not to do or how, you'll see the mistake he made where the guy was catching them every cast on every time he came to a corner of a dock or to a laydown. And then for whatever reason, this idiot decides to go out in the middle of the lake because his buddy told him that they've been catching them on 6XDs in the middle of the lake. And he goes out there and does that and don't get a bite for 6 hours.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that. It's easy for us to see it when you're sitting in the back, but when you're on the front, it's not. So putting yourself in that position in the back, it can really work for you. Mike, did you see any questions pop up in there? I see comments, but I don't see many questions.
So I saw somebody asked about what's the bathroom situation for anglers and co-anglers.
Oh yeah. Hey, what's the bathroom situation? You won't take that? You want me to answer on that one?
I mean,
that's easy.
You just pee off the back of the boat. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. I guess a lot of guys have a little bit of a loose booty.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never taken a dump in the middle of a tournament.
No, neither have I. And I would feel so weird as a co-angler, like asking him if